The billionaire never knew his father was a beggar. Until the accident, the rain was heavy that night. Not the gentle Lagos drizzle that excuses traffic, but the kind of rain that presses the city down, blurring headlights and swallowing sound. Daniel Okafor sat in the back of his black SUV, half listening to a phone call he had already decided to end. Contracts could wait. Meetings could wait. The city had taught him that patience was power. The SUV climbed onto the Third Mainland Bridge. Then, the brake pedal went soft. Samuel pressed it again. Nothing. His eyes widened. Sir?
Sir.
The car swerved. Metal screamed. Tires slid uselessly across wet asphalt. Headlights spun into madness as the SUV smashed into the barrier, folded inward, and spun like it had been picked up by an invisible hand. Samuel died on impact. Daniel did not. His body slammed forward, then sideways. Glass burst. His head struck metal. Blood flooded the leather seat, dark and fast. The SUV came to rest at an angle that should have ended everything. Inside the wreckage, Daniel's heart beat once, twice, then struggled to continue. By the time sirens cut through the rain, the bridge was empty of witnesses. By the time the ambulance doors closed, the story was already forming. A tragic accident, a rainy night, an unfortunate loss. No one called it what it was: an attempt on a life. Stay with this story. What you are about to hear is not just about money or betrayal. It's about how close a man can be to his own truth and never see it. Before the accident, Daniel Okafor was the man everyone admired. At 34, Daniel Okafor had already climbed higher than most men ever would. He was the CEO of Okafor Global Holdings, a company whose name opened doors in Lagos, Abuja, Accra, Nairobi, and Johannesburg. Oil logistics, infrastructure, finance, quiet power. Forbes Africa once called him a billionaire. Daniel laughed when he saw it. "My mother knows the real numbers," he said with a smile that reporters loved. That smile made his story believable. Raised by a single mother, no father, no scandal, just discipline, excellence, and sacrifice. "My father vanished," Daniel often said. "I never knew him. Everything I am today, I owe to my mother." And it was true. Funke Adebayo Okafor gave him everything money could buy. The best schools, private tutors flown in quietly, boardroom exposure before he learned how to shave, business dinners where grown men leaned forward when he spoke. She did not raise a boy, she raised a successor. When Daniel turned 30, she handed him the company, not as a gift, as a crown. The press praised her vision. They praised her strength. They praised her sacrifice. What they never knew, what Daniel never knew, was that the empire he ruled had never been built by his mother. It had been built by a man she erased. That man did not disappear. He broke. After the divorce, the court gave Funke everything: the company, the house, the name, the child. Kinedu Okafor stood in that courtroom and watched his life leave him in sentences he could barely understand. His lawyers spoke, her lawyers crushed. When his mind finally gave in, when he broke under betrayal, they used it against him. The judgment was swift. Kinedu walked out a free man with nothing left. No job, no access, no son. Something inside him died that day. He drifted from apartments he could barely afford, to rooms he couldn't keep, to streets that asked nothing from him. Years passed. Eventually, he found himself sitting on a bench outside the headquarters of the company he once built, watching, Chinedu learned how to become invisible. He learned which guards ignored him, which mornings the executives arrived early, which evenings Daniel left late. He watched his son walk past him in tailored suits, phone pressed to his ear, speaking numbers Chinedu once wrote by hand. Once, Daniel stopped. He looked at the old man. "Here," he said, placing money in his palm. "Take care." Chinedu nodded. He did not speak, because what would he say? So he stayed silent, and Daniel walked on. Inside the company, another presence was growing. Kola Adebayo did not arrive loudly. What if the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who hates you, but the one who understands you better than you understand yourself? He arrived correctly. He spoke little, listened much, smiled just enough. To Daniel, he was just another executive hire. Ambitious, brilliant, cold. But Kola understood something no one else did. He knew the founder's name had been erased. He knew the empire had been stolen. And he knew exactly who paid the price. But Kola did not want justice. Justice restores the past. Ownership secures the future. And Daniel Okafor was in the way. The plan was simple. No violence, no witnesses, just a car. Remember this moment, because everything you saw in the opening accident started right here. The brake line was weakened carefully, not enough to fail immediately, enough to fail at speed. Tuesday came with rain. The SUV climbed the bridge. The brake failed. Samuel died. Daniel survived. Barely. The plan had worked. Almost. Daniel opened his eyes. This is where the story stops being about power and starts being about blood. The VIP suite at St. Nicholas Hospital was filled with flowers, lilies, roses, orchids, enough to bury a man. Doctors spoke softly. Machines hummed. Later that night, when Funke had gone home to change, a night nurse came in to check his vitals. She was young, chatty, unaware of the politics of the Okafor family. "You are a lucky man, Mr. Okafor," she said, adjusting his drip. "I know," Daniel said, staring at the ceiling. "My mother said a staff member gave blood." The nurse frowned. "Staff member?" "No, sir. It was the old man." Daniel froze. "What old man?" "The beggar," she said. "What kind of man almost dies just to save someone who never recognized him?" Checking his chart. "The one who sits near the gate." "Strange man," she insisted. "He was O negative. He almost died giving you that blood. They had to resuscitate him twice." Daniel's heart began to hammer against his ribs. The beggar. He knew the man. The man on the bench. The man he had ignored for 5 years. The man he had once tossed a crumpled Naira note to in the rain. "Where is he?" Daniel demanded, struggling to sit up. "Where is he now?" "Oh, he discharged himself yesterday," the nurse said. "He refused payment. He just said a strange thing." "What did he say?" "He said, 'Tell the king his throne is safe.' And then he walked out." Daniel sank back into the pillows. The room felt suddenly cold. "Tell the king his throne is safe." It wasn't a beggar's words. It was a message. Daniel investigated using his influence, dug up footage, records, logs, and the truth broke him. The beggar, the bench, the blood, Chinedu Okafor. "Father, if your entire life was built on a lie, would you expose it or protect it?" Daniel wept alone. Publicly, he said nothing. Privately, he moved. The board was dissolved, executives removed, history corrected. A plaque appeared in the lobby. founded by Chinedu Okafor. He gave his blood twice. Daniel returned to the penthouse office. He stood by the window, looking down at the spot on the street where the bench sat. It was empty. The door behind him opened. Funke walked in. "You shouldn't be here," she scolded. "You need rest." Daniel didn't turn around. "I know who he is, Mother." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. "I don't know what you mean," Funke said, her voice dropping an octave. "The beggar." Daniel turned. His eyes were dry now, cold as ice. "Chinedu, my father." Funke's face hardened. The mask was back in place. "He is a relic, Daniel. A failure. I did what I had to do to protect you, to give you this." She gestured at the opulent office. "You built this on a lie," Daniel said softly, "and his blood runs in me. Not yours. His. I made you a king." Funke snapped. "No," Daniel corrected. "You made me a thief." He walked past her to his desk. He pressed the intercom. "Security," he said. "Remove Mrs. Okafor from the building. Revoke her clearance. She is no longer chairwoman of the board." Funke gasped. "You wouldn't dare." "I am your mother, and he was my father," Daniel said. "Get out." As security escorted a screaming Funke out of the office, Daniel sat in his leather chair. He felt heavy. He felt old. He picked up the phone to call his private investigator. He needed to find Chinedu. He needed to bring him home, wash him, clothe him, and put him at the head of the table. But just as he dialed, his other line blinked. It was the head of fleet maintenance. The report on the car crash was ready. Daniel picked it up. "Talk to me," he said. "Sir," the mechanic said, his voice trembling. "We checked the wreckage. The brake lines weren't just cut. I know they were sabotaged." "I know," said Daniel. "No, sir. You don't understand. The cut was made from the inside of the wheel, which will require access codes to the garage that only 3 people have." "Who?" Daniel asked. "You. Your driver, Samuel." "And the third?" Daniel asked. "The head of strategy, Mr. Tunde Cole." Daniel dropped the phone. Tunde Cole, his best friend, his right-hand man, the man who was currently sitting in the office next door, probably smiling. The accident wasn't just an attempt on his life. It was a coup. And while Daniel was busy dealing with the ghosts of the past, the serpent was already in the room with him. Daniel looked at the reflection in his window. The storm wasn't over. It had just begun. Like, share, subscribe. Because some stories are not entertainment. They are warnings.